Hello and welcome to the Record Club, brought to you by Record Store Day, the official charts and National Album Day. My name is Jess Izzatt. Thank you very much for joining us. We are very excited to say that our guests this evening are Millie and Jess from the Staves to talk all about their brand new record, Good Woman. So, if you are new to the Record Club, we're going to be spending the next half an hour talking to Millie and Jess all about their brilliant new record, and then we'll be putting your questions forward to them to answer. So, if there is anything that you would like to know about the brand new record, whether it be about a certain song, the artwork, or a particular lyric that you've enjoyed, drop us a question in the comments section below, and we'll be asking a selection of them in the second half of our chat. On top of that, one lucky person who sends in a question today will be randomly selected to win a pair of Bowers & Wilkins PX7 over-ear noise-cancelling headphones, which I'm donning for you today. And trust me, if you win them, you'll never want to listen to anything or any of your records in anything else ever again. I also have the new record with me. If you haven't already picked up your own copy from your local record store, we thoroughly recommend you do that once our chat with the Staves is over. And without further ado, I would love to welcome you into this week's Record Club. Say hi to Jess and Millie. How's it going?
Hello. Hi.
Oh my god, I could see like jazz hands and like you guys getting ready to jump on, and I was saying things in the wrong order, but hopefully it all made sense. How are you girls?
We're good, thank you.
Well, thanks.
Yeah,
You know
we're
what?
so excited to have the new record out and to be talking to you. So thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Before we get stuck in, I've got a couple of record-inspired questions because obviously we're the Record Club, we big up albums. I want to know a couple of albums that you guys have been listening to, perhaps some recommendations that you might have.
We have been listening to, there's a record called Bonnie Light Horseman by the band Bonnie Light Horseman, who are an American kind of folk trio, but it's just a beautiful, beautiful album, and I would recommend it thoroughly. It's got me through lockdown completely.
Yeah, it's like the exact kind of comfort that you need in these weird times. Like it feels like a glorious hug for your ears,
Yeah.
which is ace.
And there are some backing vocals on one of the tracks done by myself and Emily as well.
Nice.
I'm actually not just saying it because of that. It is just a great record. And what's the other one we were talking about? The Fleet Foxes record, Shore, is so, so beautiful.
Been listening
so
to
cool.
Caroline Polachek, her album Pang, which
Yeah.
is amazing.
Christian Lee Hudson's got a record called Beginners. That's also such well-written songs, beautiful guitar playing. Yeah, there's a few.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a good list to tuck into. And also part of the reason that we run the Record Club is to support and celebrate the record shops, especially, you know, over the past year, coronavirus, lockdown, they've all had to be shut. But which record shops usually would you be visiting? Which ones are your favourites? Tell us about a couple of those.
Well, I have to give a shout out to a record store in Watford, in our hometown, called the LP Cafe. They're lovely people. It's a lovely shop, and yeah, it's just like fantastically curated. They always have a really interesting mix of very current and very kind of niche old stuff. And it's one of those places that rotates things really well. So every time you go in, there's something different that wasn't there before. So they're really, really great.
And it makes me wish that when I had been a young teenager living in Watford, that it had been there, because it kind of came a little bit later. Because I just would have been in there all the time.
Yeah.
They do really good coffees as well, and good food and pastries. So big shout out to them. And also, any time of day or night you go in there, there will be a Staves album
on display at the front. I love that. And also, oh, sorry, what were you going to say?
No, go on.
Yeah, so the final one for our record collection questions. Who has the most impressive record collection that you know?
Well, we were discussing this earlier on, and we were going to say our dad, because that's kind of our earliest memories of playing vinyls. We're going through the records that he had, and there was records that he'd had from when he was young. But it's not a massive record collection. It hasn't really, and he's definitely stopped buying stuff since like the 70s or the 80s. So in terms of a more expansive collection, I'd actually give a shout out to my friend Will Taylor, who's in a great band called Flight. And he's got a great record collection, lots of classic 70s albums, in particular. But yeah, he's got a pretty decent, pretty serious record collection. Yeah.
That's good to know. Shout out to Flight. I'm a fan too. So, and also we have an record store question for you. So each week on the Record Club, to kick things off, we have a question from one of the amazing independent record stores in the UK. This week's question is Off the Beaten Tracks in Louth, Lincolnshire. They're asking Millie and Jess, they want to know, what was the first record that you ever bought and where did you buy it from?
Oh, wow, that's such a good question. So I think growing up in a small town, the places that sold vinyl that I could afford when I was younger were the charity shops. So we would go around like Oxfam and whatever all the other ones
British
on the high street were. The British Heart Foundation.
PDSA.
But they would sell kind of really weird vinyl that, you know, obviously people had just kind of thrown out. You'd be really lucky if you could find something that you kind of really wanted. So I think one of the first ones I bought was actually Cats by Andrew Lloyd Webber. It was probably like 59p or something. And I was like, this is awesome. It's like a, you know, cool vinyl of like tunes that I love.
Rum Tum Tugger. Yeah. Oh my God.
Softly's for Life. And I've still got it. So there you go.
I hope you listen to it in some sort of Cats get up as well.
Well, I think there's been a problem because of the film. I think a lot of people have become very afraid of Cats the musical, but I would say the original was delightful. What about you?
We were talking about this. I can't remember the first vinyl I bought. I remember the first CD I bought, which was, I think the first CD I was given was Spice Girls, obviously. But the first one I bought was the Bewitched album, which got me through some tough times.
C'est la vie.
That's good. That is so good. Mine was definitely something along the lines of Britney. I think actually also buying CDs was like a big thing for me. So like Pink, Misunderstood, that kind of vibe.
Yes.
Definitely up there. I've actually written in like my questions. I was like, first, before, you know, we jump into anything, but of course we've asked you a bunch of questions already, but I was going to ask what everyone's wearing because, you know, just had to get it out of the way for context. I've been obsessed with the podcast Dial a Stave, and I just like, is it going to continue? I feel like it definitely needs to.
Yeah. Thank you so much. That means so much to us. We've had so much fun making it. I mean, it feels like quite a luxury because it's literally just us chatting to each other in lockdown when we weren't able to see each other and just having a laugh and being idiots.
Yeah, it feels so self-indulgent because we just enjoy doing that so much anyway. So we were like, let's just hear
I know. We said to our manager, like, do you think anyone would find it funny or be interested? And she said, I think your fans would like it. And I think you should. So we did. So thank you. But yeah, I think the what are you wearing thing came from the idea of, you know, the red carpet. Who are you wearing? And it's like Gucci or whatever. And I think the irony of being in lockdown and for most of us sort of wearing our pajamas quite a lot at home or loungewear.
With an elastic.
Loungewear is like a new brand now, though. Have you noticed? It's like literally, to be fair, I'm so guilty. I bought a lot of loungewear.
Yeah.
That's like 90% of my wardrobe now. I don't need anything else. I want something with either no waistband or an elasticated waistband.
Yeah.
I don't want anything form-fitting.
So right now, I mean, you can see the top. I'm just wearing
fetching cardigan.
I'm wearing a really warm cardigan, and it's got some really nice ruffle detail on the sleeve here, and it's a little bit like a kind of Victorian child or grandma. And on the bottom, if I'm being completely honest, and I'm going to ruin the illusion,
it's naked from the waist down.
Well, She is wearing her birthday suit underneath all that, I believe. So
all of it, she's just naked.
Yeah, I'm wearing sweatpants, so that's the truth right there.
And I'm wearing white dungarees like a child again. There's no waistband, so it's great. And an 80s, I won't lie, it's slightly too warm top. I'm getting a bit of a dab on.
It's very synthetic, isn't it?
we wouldn't know, but thank you for sharing.
It's a vintage top, isn't it? That, yeah. And what about you, Jess?
Well, I must admit that I'm actually wearing pants.
My lord!
But no flip-flops.
Such a professional.
Absolute pro.
But what is the movie where she wears army pants and flip-flops?
Where who?
The movie where I can't tell you who because it would give it away. But she wears army pants and flip-flops, so everyone else wants to wear army pants and flip-flops.
Oh, is it Mean Girls?
Yes. Okay. Bingo. Got it.
I was going to G.I. Jane.
And also, quickly, before we lose anyone, because I'm going to move on from this, but before we lose anyone with the chat, which means that you guys need to listen to the podcast. If you haven't, dial a stave on Spotify, not probably other platforms, not sure. But there was someone who gave a quote, and it was something along the lines, if is good, and someone else said Hercules, that's technically not wrong, because I mean, the answer was Cinderella, but it's technically not wrong.
Yeah, because it is in Hercules as well.
Yes.
So she meant the other one, but both of them are technically correct.
Correct.
Yeah, guys, listen to our podcast of us quoting obscure quotes from Disney films, if anyone's interested.
And segueing very smoothly straight into the album. So how has it been? I mean, notoriously a second album is pretty hard, but a third album, how does that go for an established band like the Staves?
Well, I feel like we maybe did things the opposite way round. Like the first one felt very like difficult to make because it was so new, and I think we maybe hadn't quite found our like confidence in the studio yet. And then the second one felt so easy comparatively because we toured so much, and I think we knew a bit more what we wanted. And then I think from then on, leading to this album, even more so, I think we found our feet in the studio and have become, with age and experience, just like a bit more brave and a bit bolder, and like making it was a real experience that spanned over a very long time.
Yeah, it took a lot longer than we thought, and I think, you know, in terms of like following any kind of trend of like what's in at the moment, it just, you know, it was never going to happen with us because, like I said, it took so long that any trend that we might have been on had already been over by the time that, you know, we'd finished it. So we were kind of in a bit of a cocoon, and we were just making music that, as long as the three of us felt like we liked it and we thought it was good and our producer did, then we felt kind of confident that we were on the right track. But it's really nice now to have it actually out and to have such an amazing response from our wonderful fans saying how much they've enjoyed it. It kind of makes you think, okay, so we weren't like completely mental making it this whole time, because you never know.
Yeah, I can imagine if you kind of pull yourself away from the world and then you're within your sort of own bubble, just you three sisters, because you did start producing it yourselves, right?
Yeah, that's right. And since the last record, everything we've done, we've self-produced, so like lots of kind of EPs and singles and things like that. And during that time, I think we got, you know, we experimented quite a lot with using different sounds, and I think being a little bolder in the studio and just having fun. So when it came to this album, we thought we should self-produce it because we know what we want, and I don't think we kind of need anyone else in there to I don't know, to kind of dilute the message in a way. But, you know, the best laid plans, it ended up being that, you know, we took a break and took some time away from it, and I think during that time, I think we lost confidence, to be honest, in what we'd done.
And lost perspective
as well.
I think when you sit with anything too long, you can just be like, I don't even know which way is up anymore. I don't know if I'm good at music. I don't know if this is good anymore. And like,
yeah, and and we went through a lot, personally during that time. We lost our mum, and it was this complete sudden thing that happened to all of us, and so that's like affecting you as a family, but also as a band. And so, and then Emily, our sister who's not here tonight, got pregnant. So she is looking after her baby. So then it was like, she's having a baby. Is she going to be in the band anymore? What are we going to do? And it was this kind of crazy period where we just had to take a step back. And I think by the time that we'd taken enough time out, we felt ready to go back in the studio. And that's when we got together with John Congleton, who actually produced the album in the end. And he was just so amazing at getting us to the finish line, and was just like, you guys are on the right track. It's going to be fine. And he just gave us, you're not mental. He gave us the confidence that I think we needed so much to kind of get it there. So.
Yeah, definitely.
I feel like with big bodies of work, especially creative projects, it's almost part of the process getting to that point where you're like, oh, I don't even know whether this is good or not anymore, and it just needs that one person just to back you in your creative process, and just to tell you that you're not mental and it's sounding good. But honestly, just what a wicked record. And for fear of returning back to the podcast, but the bit where you're talking about Maggie coming along, little baby Margot, I was just like, I almost cried. I literally was like, oh my god, don't. But guys, listen to it. And also, people listening, you will be able to ask some questions to Millie and Jess rather, in just a moment's time. I've got a couple more with you. Which one is your favorite track on the album?
I've already found that my answer to that question has changed, because as we mentioned, starting this record quite a while ago, we've lived with some of the songs for quite a long time. And I always think when you write a song, you think this is the best thing I've ever done at the time. And then you write something else and you're like, oh, actually, this is better.
Yeah, because it all feels the most current to you and the most like truthful at the time.
Yeah, so I've got it in and out, but I'd say there's two at the moment for me, is Careful Kid and Best Friend, which are actually track 2 and 3 on the record. They're my current faves, but obviously I love them all. That's what I have to say.
Yeah, they're all bangers, guys.
I think they're actually, they're my favourites for different reasons. So Best Friend, I find myself singing a lot. And that was the one when I first, when the album first dropped and I was listening through, I'd get stuck on replaying that one, which then meant that I was like, oh no, now I need to listen and give the same love to the others. But also Careful Kid, just the production on it, it's slight, not too different from the rest of the album to make it obviously like a completely different song, but it's just got that, I don't know, like a bit of edginess to it, like the effects on the vocals. Did you spend much time playing around with that? Because obviously I guess the demo would have been the straight singing, but then playing around with effects on vocals, how long do you spend on stuff like that?
Well, it's very easy to spend a really, really long time on it. But with that one, it's one of those songs that kind of came together really quickly. I had this voice memo on my phone for a really, really long time, which was the initial kind of riff. It sounds a bit like distorted guitar, but it's my voice going through a distortion pedal and then through an amp. And so I was just messing around with it and singing and making different sounds. And I had this thing for ages. And then me and Jess sat down one day and were like, should we just do something with it? And it was kind of like the first stuff that any of us came up with just felt really right. And it all kind of came out fairly fully formed, and kind of the change into the chorus. And we found that we instantly had very strong production ideas for it. And I guess the real changer and the real like completer for it was when we got in the studio and there are these like massive drums on it that Tom Skinner did. And when they went on, it really felt like, okay, now it's finished, because we haven't really done anything that full throttle before in terms of, and it's one of the times where I think the sound of the song and the sentiment of the song are exactly the same, which is quite satisfying.
It's almost like quite grungy. Have you played it live? Are these any of these songs? Have you been able to play them live?
Yeah. So we did a live stream gig on Friday. So when the record came out, we did a gig that night.
But before that, before the world
with fans actually face to face.
Yeah. So we played that one at the virtual gig, which was great, but obviously not an audience there. But yeah, we had done last year, right before lockdown, like in March, we did a handful of shows, and that was kind of our like reintroduction tour after being away for a long time. We got the band together.
We're going to go touring, and then the world stopped.
Yeah, so we did play it in a few rooms in the UK, and it was, I think it went down really well. I think, you know, our fan base is so incredibly supportive and very generous to us, so they kind of are willing to go on whatever journey we're going on, and they're always just kind of there, and like they're pretty open-minded, I think, with all the different sort of directions we've taken. So yeah, I think they were loving it.
Yeah, it was it's a really fun one to play as well.
But it was a long time ago, so I might be remembering it completely wrong.
Raced into you.
It might have been horrible, you know, and then the world went into lockdown because of it.
Just because of playing that live.
Yeah, probably.
Has there been a surprising fan favourite that people, I don't know, like you've seen reflected on socials, or people getting in touch saying that they've really, really loved?
Yeah, we were talking weirdly about this earlier. There's two songs actually that I was worried would be, well, not worried, but sometimes there are ones that you feel very passionately about, and that naturally just get kind of a little bit overshadowed by maybe the more full-on, maybe more poppy, kind of catchy ones on a record. But I've been really comforted by the fact that there's a song called Sparks, and there's a song called Waiting on Me to Change, which is the final song. And both of them seem to have really resonated with people, and they're a little bit more kind of contemplative, and less kind of, I don't know, aggressive, I suppose. And that's been really pleasantly surprising.
And also it kind of shows you that the people that have listened to the end of the record as well.
Yeah. Congratulations.
You completed it.
Waiting on Me to Change, I think it's quite like poignant as well. It's a bit, and also I think it fits with this time. I don't know about you, but like kind of women being able to actually say, actually no, like I'm not the one in the wrong, like I can change when I want to change. I want to do what I want to do, and I'm not shaped by, I don't know, I don't know if I've got that completely wrong, but like when I was listening to it, I was like, yes, I love that.
Yeah, I think that there's like a really laid back sass, I think, to that song a little bit in the message.
Harmonising sass.
Yeah, and it's kind of saying, it's sort of exploring the idea of how somebody else has a sort of perceived idea of how you are, and you're kind of saying, hello, I always told you I was this way. Why are you waiting for me to be someone different, the person that maybe you've imagined you're seeing? So it's saying, like, you said you're waiting for me to change, and it's like, what are you doing that for? Yeah, it's not going to happen.
You idiot.
Yeah, and it's kind of almost...
You signed up for this.
And then it's almost being, I guess, like a little bit of a brat and saying, like, no, I'm going to change. I know I've got things wrong, but I'm not going to change them until I want to. So go away, kind of thing. So it's it's a kind of weird, defiant message, but it's a pretty, like, chilled out song to end the record with, which I think is quite cool.
And Sparks, in my notes I've just put beautiful next to it. I think it's really lovely. So I'm actually not surprised that's a fan favourite.
Thank you.
Oh, cheers.
And speaking of the fans, we've got a couple of questions coming in. So Harriet Smith on the official charts page says, what was the most challenging aspect about writing your album?
Oh God. Well, I mean, it's been such a mad experience because it went on so much longer than we thought it would. We started demoing in 2017, and then finished it right at the end of 2019, like the beginning of 2020. And it's just been so much has happened within that time. So it's very hard to separate what's happened with us as a band and as a family. It's hard to separate that from like the making of the album. This album is, to us, ended up having so much just personal weight, and it feels like a culmination of that entire period of time. There's been kind of like literally all the things: death, birth, breakups, just these massive changes. So I think trying to remain inspired and assured while all this stuff is changing around you, I think that has been the most challenging.
Yeah, and I think finding a way to bring together all those different songs from all those different moments and bring them all together to make like one body of work has been the challenge as well.
Was there a lot cut out from the choice of records that could have been songs on the album?
There were some songs that I still think about. I think you always have that thing with songs that you don't finish, or that you do finish but they don't make it on, and it's like they're just, I don't know, almost like exes. They're still kind of there buzzing around.
Sliding into your DMs all the time.
Sliding into DMs. There was one song that we actually called like as a kind of holding title while we were still like working on it, and we just called it Yas Queen. So then it became like referred to as Yas Queen by everybody. So then we had like the guys from the label being like, yeah, that song Yas Queen's really cool.
So no, that's just a holding title.
It's just a joke, but it didn't make it on. So yeah, I don't know.
But it's always frustrating with that, because it's like it's not that we thought they were crap. It's just they didn't kind of fit in that thing. So I'm quite looking forward to revisiting them and maybe putting them out in a different guise later on at some point. So stay tuned for Yas Queen.
Honestly, if you release that, the number of people on radio and stuff being like Yas Queen by the Staves. So good. Who have we got next? We've got Edward Rose on the Record Club's page. He says, what's your favourite lyric on the album? Mine is, I can hear your keys in the door. I want to believe it. Perfectly captures the weird, dreamy limbo you can find yourself in after suffering a loss.
Shout out to Ed Rose. That's a great question.
Yeah.
And thank you for liking that lyric.
Oh God,
there are loads.
I think
there are loads of lyrics on the album, so it's quite hard to decide which ones.
And if you want to read them, they are all in the record.
I've got it in the background, in the fireplace.
There you go.
Lyrics to our songs.
All of them.
Yeah. But oh God, I don't know. I think
I'm going to say one. So these are lyrics that you wrote, so I can't take credit for them.
Okay.
Because it's weird to say that you love your own lyrics, isn't it? But no, I remember on the title track, Good Woman, I remember Millie she sent me a demo of the song, and she'd written, I think most of the lyrics were in the first demo. And there was a verse, which is verse 3, and it says, surrender is sweet, forgiveness divine, but who will build statues of me when I leave you all behind? And I was like, yes, that is such a great lyric.
Yeah, because I think
love it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think that's the kind of thing of like, if you're in if you're battling with all the things that you're supposed to be as a woman, or in a particular relationship, when you're being told to kind of be a certain way and be a caregiver and have no needs and carry your own stuff as well as someone else's, there's this idea of being a martyr. But usually martyrs are
canonized,
remembered and glorified for what they've done and what they've suffered for,
and have their statues in the middle of cities.
And then realizing that I'm laboring so much, but no one's going to thank me or remember it after I've done it, so it's not worth doing, and this is crap.
Actually, someone later on was saying, is it anything to there's the fact that there's basically no female statues in the UK, and I'm sure in lots of other countries as well, and there's been like campaigns to get more going, and someone was saying, was it referring to that? Which I don't think it was.
No, but I guess it kind of feeds into the same thing of like.
It made me think of that. And also, I think obviously last year with the Black Lives Matter protests, I know it's not linked, but obviously it's the same idea.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, it questions who it is that we are, you know, literally putting on a pedestal.
Yeah, and who it is that we value and who we choose to value.
Yeah,
for sure.
Quick question of mine on Good Woman, you know, the voices that are in the background layered underneath, who are they?
What? That's kind
it's
of
our inner demons, basically. The voices.
That's what I hear in my head.
Tensions, anxieties, fears. They are all women, and they're all voice memos or voice notes that people have sent us, friends and family. And yeah, I guess we kind of wanted there to be a very subtle, buzzing cacophony of women's voices and women's thoughts and feelings, all kind of layered on top of each other. So I think our friend Nicola's in there. I think our mum and our grandma are in there somewhere.
Yeah, there's even like a drunk woman in a bar in like San Francisco or something in there.
She has very valid thoughts.
And there's an old recording of me singing when I was like 20, some song in there as well. That randomly I found on my phone, and it was like the right key. So it was just like a weird kind of experiment while we were demoing of like, let's shove loads of women's voices in this bit, but have them all play at the same time. And it could be like the confused mind of a woman. And then we always just kept it in as we carried on working on the song. And then it became like this kind of instrument in itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't hear it immediately, and I remember hearing it afterwards, and I remember thinking like, am I like hearing something outside my headphones? Yeah, super subtle. I love that it is actually, you know, your own personal voice notes. I wonder if other people are thinking, oh, if I voice note my friend who's in a band or a musician, I'll end up being in it.
Yeah,
you never know.
End up on a record.
Yeah.
Never know. Who have we got next? Joe Kershaw on the Record Club. What is your writing process as a trio? Do one of you come up with a concept and you just jam it out a bit? Or is it more weighted to one of you writing at a time?
Well, thank you, Joe. That is you kind of have it there in your question, because there are songs where one person will have an idea and they'll bring it to the group, and we will sort of play through it together and kind of build it up from the ground up together. And then there are other songs that are written, if not completely by one person, they're like kind of mainly one person's song. But there's always a point, and I always count myself very lucky that I've got you two, because I can never finish a song completely. Like sometimes I'll have the whole structure and I even have the whole melody, but like lyrics, I'm terrible at finishing. So it's always like someone will contribute something. If it's not like loads, even if it's just one line that just like flips the whole thing and makes everything make sense. So I think like we always say that, you know, it's not a Staves song until everyone has contributed to it.
Yeah.
And until the harmonies are on it as well. And sometimes the songwriting, you know, really happens once you start to actually arrange how you're singing it together, and then it kind of, the structure can change. But with this record, we did write quite a lot separately, because for about a year, Millie was living in the US and I was still living in London with Emily. So we weren't together quite a lot of the time. So there were lots of songs that you would send me that you'd just been working on your own, and vice versa. So it was quite a challenge in the end, I think, to kind of tie it all together. And Nothing's Gonna Happen, which is on the record, which we put out as a demo before the record came out. That song we all kind of sat down together and wrote, and it kind of took us back to how we started writing songs together, just around the guitar. And so that was a really special song on the record for that reason, I think.
And we have time for just one more from Gabriella BC on the Staves page. She says, I love you girls so much. I have the most amazing memories from seeing you playing in tiny, tiny venues to now. Is there a fun story from touring before you became famous that you want to share?
Oh, hi, Gabby.
Hey, Abby.
Thank you for your question. What funny stories?
What ones are clean?
We've just, when I think about it, like we've done so many shows that I'm so proud of and had such amazing experiences and met so many people, but we've also done like so many weird gigs in weird places, and just like such strange times. It's so hard to even remember. I think someone was asking us in an interview the other day about, have you ever played to like 5 people in the room? And the answer is yes.
Absolutely.
I think it was on our first ever UK tour.
Do you know what? You say that. I don't think it was. I think it was later than that.
Was it?
Yes.
Oh dear.
It's been a real slow road. It was in Nottingham.
Yeah, it was.
And it was literally one of those ones where it's like
5 people, and 3 of them were like our friends on the guest list.
Yeah, the rest were the support band. Yeah. And it's just, you have to really do some mental work to try and get through.
We played in like a kind of corrugated iron sort of, I don't know, like lean-to hut in Utah in America. And that was like the hottest gig I've ever played in my life. I
think I started like borderline hallucinating. I had to like go to a higher plane to like do that, because my face was just pouring with sweat, and as I was singing, all the like P's and T's were spraying out sweat from my face.
Like raining.
It was awful. And I was like, I'm so sorry.
And also, it wasn't the kind of gig where you're on a stage and you're like away from the crowd. You're just, there was no raised level. They were just standing like a foot in front of us, looking at us sweat and basically trying not to faint throughout the show.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, hopefully they were on the same level as you guys.
Yeah, I think we're kind of in it together, which is...
Yeah.
Those aren't really fun stories, though. That's just kind of horror stories.
Was the question fun stuff? We camped next to a bunch of hippies in our first Glastonbury, which was in 2009. And we played at the Croissant Nerf tent, which for anyone who knows Glastonbury will know it's in the Greenfields, which is a kind of hippie area. And my mate, his family ran the tent. So he was like, do you guys want to play? We didn't have a booking agent or a manager or anything. We were like, oh my God, we're going to headline Glastonbury. It's going to be amazing. And it was so fun. Like the gig was great and loads of people came and it was super fun. But we camped backstage and there were these basically like lunatics that were staying next to our tent, and we would go away and come back and they'd move our tent to a different place. Yeah. And they ended up being very heavy drug users. So all we heard was just them like taking drugs next to us as we were trying to sleep.
But there was one time when obviously, and
there was a woman, in a top hat. There was a woman who brought all her stuff in a wheelbarrow, and she was wearing a tutu with like DMs and a top hat that just said in Diamantes, "fuck off."
Wow.
It's a really strong look. We thought about that for the front cover of Good Women, but it didn't get through the net.
Didn't make the cut.
No.
Maybe for Yas Queen if it's just a single.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes. Okay. Well, girls, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been lovely chatting to you. I mean, I could chat forever. If you guys want to listen to the podcast, I would recommend it. It's great. But I will say I do not approve of the stamping on a tadpole. That was just that made me quite sad. But anyway, still listen to the podcast. Just don't listen to that bit. But that is all we have time for today. Thank you so much, Millie and Jess from the Staves, for joining us. If you haven't already got yourself a copy of Good Woman, you just need to, from your local record store. I'm also excited to announce that the winner of this week's Bowers & Wilkins wireless headphones prize is, drumroll, Edward Rose, who commented on the Record Club's page. So make sure to slide into the Record Club's DMs and we'll get those headphones to you. Thank you everyone for joining us and sending in your questions. We'll be back in 2 weeks. Our special guest will be announced on the Record Club's social media very soon, so make sure you're following us. Plus, all previous episodes, by the way, are available to watch back on YouTube. So check those out and I'll see you in 2 weeks, February the 24th.
Bye. Thank you.